Alright, this week we're going to make this image. Well, you can make any image you want. I made this image with a process called imprinting, or more commonly known as a rubbing. So for this I went back outside and I've been walking around and biking around my neighborhood finding interesting things that have a raised surface. So I've been looking at the utility covers, and this one's like a sprinkler control cover. And if you hold the pencil sideways, you can see that as you scratch back and forth over the surface, anything that has a raised surface under the paper will catch the pencil a little bit more. Now, even though I did this in graphite, any dry media will work. So you can see that control valve raised lettering shows up darker. So anything like a dry media, and it's not going to work with paint, or even marker probably won't work too well. But pencil, crayon, pastels if you have them, works really well with just about anything. Colored pencil, anything that doesn't have a lot of liquid that can get in between the words or the patterns that you're trying to rub in there. So there you can see with the really big lettering of storm, and you know they all say different things like sewer or water or lighting. I was trying to find something that would have some meaning and kind of get it away from the fact that this is just a utility cover. It's a bonus question of the day. Why are utility covers, or manhole covers as they used to be known, round? Why aren't they square or rectangular? Yeah, you can see on this one there was this diamond plate kind of patterning that I just wanted to grab and kind of use to fill the space. So I used 3 different covers for this initial stage. I'm going to speed it up here so you can just see it going faster. Each one of these clips was about 2 minutes. I tried some other things too, which I'll maybe put in a different video. But a lot of things can work. I ended up using some leaves as well to contrast the kind of industrial nature of these plates that are out there. So I was only out there for, working on it for about 15 minutes or so to get that initial part in. And then this is a day later in the studio. And I brought some leaves from the bushes outside, just with different textures and shapes. And you can see in a little bit what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of these underneath the paper to get the imprint, just in the house. So you don't have to go outside to do this process. And you could easily cut these leaves out of paper or anything else. Just a slight raised surface works just as well as something a little bit deeper. So you can see there's what I'm working with in the beginning. And I didn't think too much about the composition. I just wanted to try and fill the page. And in my style, I really like to kind of make a mess and then sort the mess out, rather than know exactly where everything's going to go in the beginning. I don't end up using those pine needles too much. They don't work very well. So I think leaves with a bigger leaf structure work better. Now you probably want to put a piece of paper underneath your other paper in order to sandwich those together. Or if you have a really flat table or something. My table is very bumpy and has a lot of scouring marks and things on it and paint and stuff. So I'm going to put this self-healing cutting mat underneath, which is a really flat surface. But if you have a cutting board you can use, or just the dining room table or your desk, even the ground will work really well. Not on carpet, but concrete or wood, tile, it'll work good. If you have interesting tile setups in your house, like maybe in the bathroom or the kitchen, tile can actually work off of this too. So you can see I put a leaf underneath there, and just this is a close-up of basically how that system works. You just kind of swipe the pencil back and forth, and here I used an eraser. If you use colored pencil or crayon, then you won't have that the ability to erase around, but that may not matter too much. I think a little bit of over scratching just gives us a little bit more of a printer's kind of look. That pencil or the eraser that I'm using is a kneaded eraser, but any kind of eraser will work pretty well. I found that it was easier to take the leaves off of the branches and to do this process. The branch structure in the other leaves held it a little bit too high up off the paper, so taking them off one by one means you can place them wherever you want, and you can kind of build the branch structure out of it if you want to. So none of the leaves in this composition in the end are drawn, really. They're kind of traced or outlined. I didn't do any drawing from observation. I'll speed up the video here for the rest of the time so you can see. Let's go a little bit faster. All told, I think this second session was about an hour and a half. So 15 minutes outside, just gathering things and kind of looking around and trying to figure out how to get it started. And then about an hour and a half coming back in and really filling it in with the leaves and stuff that I found outside. So this is an imprinting project. You may have done something similar to this. It's a very popular project with kindergarten classes at elementary schools, because it helps to see textures and things, and you don't have to really know how to draw in order to use it to make a composition. So you may have encountered it previously in your life. At this point in the school year, we'd normally be doing a printing project, and in Art 1 that's mono printing, where we put some inks on a plate and you make a print that really only is able to make one version of itself before you're inking it up again and make another one. In Art 2, we usually did woodblock printing, and then in Art 3, screen printing. So always try and throw in a printing project so that those art forms can get a little bit of airplay too. Though they're very materials intensive and messy, and almost nobody has the ability to do them at home without going out and getting extra supplies. So to replace that, I kind of felt like this imprinting project might give some of the spirit of taking an object or a plate or something that can actually leave an impression on the surface. I don't use this a lot as a technique, but I really liked it. It was a lot of fun to just not have to worry about where am I going to draw the next thing and just placing stuff underneath. A little bit similar to our graphite transfer technique, but with an actual object. I have used this while on camping trips and wanting to do like pages in a sketchbook or something. just to kind of take a piece of the place with you too. So, taking a leaf or a stick or something and putting it inside your sketchbook. I've done that before, and that's kind of the simple idea where this more complex idea came from. Just like with the previous projects, at some point you just kind of start filling things in. That diamond plate pattern that came off of the sprinkler controls started to look like a plus minus matrix to me. And, the positivity, negativity of the news nowadays, and testing and cases and all that, I just started to put those pluses and minuses in there. They fill up the space, and with the idea of a storm control valve that's also in there, it seems to say something about, I don't know, the mental state or the political state that we seem to be in. And, that wasn't really planned from the beginning, but you can't keep your personal emotions and feelings out of your artwork. You can try, but it's just not going to work. After kind of filling in the composition from left to right, and just getting a feel for where the positive and negative space is going to be, then it became important to establish value shifts. So going back in with the eraser and having some leaves be darker, some leaves be lighter. They even start to kind of overlap a little bit. Some leaves going behind others, and that's really the last step. Not that I had that really planned out. I'm really going more for time on these, and just giving myself the same limitations that a student would have, and saying, like, I will not work on this longer than an hour and 45 minutes to see how far I can actually get. I haven't taken any of the projects that I've recorded and worked on them more or anything to try and develop them more. I don't think it's really necessary. I think the point has been made by the time that the drawing gets to about an hour and a half or so. And that's not really a different way that I work. Normally, my drawings are usually about an hour and a half or 2 hours. Paintings take longer. Sometimes they might span over multiple days, but something about that kind of sweet spot of just a couple hours. And then if I wanted to work on something else, I grab another piece of paper and do another one. And again, that's just a number 2 pencil. If I had an ebony pencil like the kind that we used at school, or something darker, I might use that to get a little bit more of the shadowing or darker values in there. But it's also part of the exposure from the light. The overhead light I have on my desk doesn't show pencil as well. So this is a little bit darker, but I'll show the final image again at the end of the video. In case you're wondering, this is sped up about 1,000%. So it really is about an hour and a half of work taken down into 5 or 6 minutes at the end part right here. Now again, I want to stress that you don't have to make an image like mine. It's just a technique. So anything that you can find that could use, could leave these imprints into the picture, you can just start with those and see where it takes you. So here you can see a little bit more of how those leaves got overlapped. Some ended up in front and behind, and as with a lot of my work, I really like the energy of this. It really does look like things are flying and moving. And all that just comes off of that word, storm. that came from the beginning. So happy imprinting. Have fun with it.